Turns out the federal government is getting inundated with reports of UFOs, or they call them UAPs now, right? Unidentified anomalous phenomena. The Pentagon just released a new report that says they've gotten 500 sightings since just last summer. And there's a reason they think that they're getting more of these. You remember there was a big report that came out last year. And generally speaking, the federal government has been more open about wanting to get these reports. They want people to report it.
Can I just say,
well, they've been open about saying they want the reports. And they say
there
that
are a lot of people who think the government's still whitewashing this. I'm telling you. There just are.
Well, let's dive into the latest report. Joining us right now, our good friend Avi Loeb, who is at Harvard. And actually, we spoke to Avi when we did our documentary on the UFOs. So,
he knows his stuff, let me tell you.
Avi, welcome back to TMZ Live. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
It's a pleasure having you. Tell us what you think of this, because honestly, these sightings have been going on for decades. Is this something new? I mean, the Pentagon is acting like, oh my God, there are all the... Isn't this kind of standard operating procedure?
Well, the fact that they talk about it publicly means that they have no clue as to at least a third of the objects that they are seeing. Now, the government is not a scientific organization. The intelligence agencies are mostly concerned about the national security, the safety of military personnel. So they want to figure out, are these spy drones, for example, that were sent by China, or are they something else? From a scientific perspective, it could be a mixed bag. It could be human-made objects. It could be natural objects. But even if one is of extraterrestrial technological origin, that would be the most significant discovery of humanity.
Right.
And obviously, whatever we find should not be at the discretion of the President of the United States if it has nothing to do with nations on Earth. It should be knowledge that is shared with all humans, just like any other scientific knowledge. So I think this is intriguing enough for scientists to get to the bottom of it. And that's the purpose of the Galileo project that I'm leading.
I think you're right, that when the Pentagon talks about it, all they are talking about is, are these drones? In fact, they said that they've already identified, I think they said about 30 of them that they know are drones.
But there are certain things drones can't do.
And certain things that they can't.
Human technology can't do.
So is your concern that the government is not going to share enough information with the science, with scientists?
Yeah, I think the government is not a scientific organization, and the data that it collects will remain outside of public view because it was collected by classified sensors. But the sky is not classified. Anyone can look at the sky. So that's why the Galileo project assembled a new suite of instruments that monitors the sky, the entire sky, 24/7, takes a video, audio record of the sky, and we analyze it with artificial intelligence algorithms. So we will share our data with the public, with the scientific community. I think that's the best path to figuring out what these unidentified objects are.
As you were talking, it just kind of struck me, two of your comrades in arms, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, who are deep into this, they just don't trust the government, and they have said that even though the government held these hearings and Congress held these hearings, they felt it was a whitewash. It sounds like your project, the Galileo project, at a point you're just saying, look, we don't need the government, we're going to do this ourselves, we can do it better than the government, and we can come out with findings that will resonate beyond what the government says or doesn't say. Is that right?
Right, and it makes no sense to force the government to declassify information that was collected by classified sensors. We don't want to harm the national security interests of the United States. Instead, we can just collect our own data with instruments that are perfectly under our control, that we fully understand, and share the information with all humans, irrespective of their nationality.
I'm of the mind you are, although I don't have the scientific background, that, if one of these objects, one could be life-changing. But a lot of people just scoff at that. And a lot of people say, oh, you're crazy. You believe in little green men. I'm wondering how you're received at Harvard, where you work. Are professors understanding of that? Do they scoff at that? I'm curious what your colleagues think.
Yeah, I was chair of the astronomy department for 9 years, the longest serving chair. I'm part of the establishment in some sense. But on this subject, I claim we should not rely on prejudice. And it's arrogant to think that we are the smartest kid on our cosmic block. So let's just look up and figure out what's out there instead of assuming in advance. And I think we should just follow the scientific method, because very often it's considered to think outside the box as a risky proposition. I think on this matter, the box is misplaced. And, it's not a popularity contest. Just like Galileo Galilei argued that the Earth moves around the sun, he was put in house arrest. Today, he would have been canceled on social media, but that didn't change the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And we see it most recently from the Orion spacecraft that moved behind the moon. It's a blue marble that you can see moving around the sun. And it's obvious that that's the reality we live in. So it's not a matter of how many likes I get on Twitter or within academia. We just need to figure out the truth.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, this movement has a great leader in you. So appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Avi.
Really appreciate it, Avi.
What he basically said is they are watching.
Yeah,
Avi, scientists are watching. We know that the government's looking at it, but more importantly here, scientists are looking out for this, and that's who we're going to have to rely on.
And they may be more important than the government ever could.
Absolutely.